This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. We start out in Japan today, where those trade negotiations with the U.S. have yielded a completely unexpected development. Toyota says it's willing to let U.S. car makers use its dealer network in Japan to sell cars. Foreign cars, with the exception of luxury and exotics, have never sold well in Japan. One key reason is it is so difficult to build a national dealer network. Land is very expensive, and all the good locations in major cities are taken. Hyundai has tried using a direct sales model, but with little success. So for Toyota to offer its dealer network to companies like GM and Ford is a major concession. One thing though, just having access to Toyota showrooms will not be enough. American automakers would have to offer something different from Toyota's lineup. You know, GM is doing a pretty good job with EVs, and there isn't a very good selection of EVs in Japan so far, so maybe this could be a golden opportunity. But Toyota isn't exactly sitting on its hands when it comes to developing EVs. We're probably a year or two away from seeing the results of its BEV factory, which is the name of Toyota's Semi-Skunk Works EV operations in Japan. And even before those EVs hit the market, Toyota just launched the BZ5 Electric in China that we told you about last week, but now we've got more info. It's a midsize SUV with 4 trim lines that are priced from only $18,000 to $22,000. There are 2 LFP battery pack options from BYD, a 65 kilowatt hour and 74 kilowatt hour pack, which deliver 341 miles to 391 miles of range. That's based on the CLTC test cycle. You know, that's an awfully aggressive price, and it shows that Toyota is serious about competing in EVs and in China. Okay, now over to the States, where, to emphasize how it's growing its EV business, GM said it sold 62,830 EVs in the U.S. for the first 5 months of the year, almost double of what it did last year. A lot of that growth comes from GM adding more models to its EV lineup, and it will add more this year. Cadillac alone is adding 4 of them. We think that a loose rule of thumb is that automakers need to sell 50,000 EVs a quarter to start turning a profit on them. That means GM needs to increase its EV sales by another 25% to hit that number. But that would probably give it profitable economies of scale, at least with its batteries, EV motors, and inverters. And here's some relatively good news for Tesla. Even though its sales in China were down 30% last month, the Model Y emerged as the best-selling SUV. This is based on registration data for car insurance. The Model Y squeaked past the BYD Song Plus, or maybe we should say the Song Plus sank below the Model Y. Sales of the Y were actually down 38% from a year ago, so it's amazing to see it was still the best-selling SUV in China.
Knowing that a little rain won't slow down your day, that's what really matters. Bridgestone Turanza Quiet Track tires, confident control in wet conditions.
Toyota and Daimler Truck announced they finally agreed to merge their truck companies, Hino Motors and Mitsubishi Fuso. They announced their plans to merge the truck companies in 2023, but Hino got caught up in an emissions and fuel economy scandal, so the plans were put on hold. But Hino resolved those issues, and the merger is back on. The companies say the combination will create, and I quote here, a new strong Japanese powerhouse, which will collaborate on commercial vehicle development, procurement, and production. The new company will have 40,000 employees, and it's expected to begin operations in April of 2026. The global auto industry has been warning for weeks that China's restriction on rare earth supplies will soon cripple car production. But Hyundai is not fazed at all. It did a great job of reading the political winds and started stockpiling rare earth minerals. It has nearly a year's worth on hand. Also, it diversified its supply chains and took advantage of a recent period when China relaxed export restrictions. And that gives Hyundai an advantage, since it's going to be able to produce EVs and hybrids for about a year with no production disruptions. As President Trump gets rid of subsidies to buy EVs and build battery plants, we're seeing an immediate impact. Battery maker AESC is pausing construction on a $1.6 billion battery plant in South Carolina that was supposed to supply battery cells to BMW. The company made the decision based in part on Trump's tariffs on Chinese imports, since the machinery in the plant will mostly be brought in from China. Plus, tariffs on steel and aluminum will raise costs on the equipment. AESC says it's already invested more than $1 billion in the plant and that it's still committed to opening it. But let's see what happens. Nissan dropped another video of its redesign of the Leaf EV, and we finally have got some real numbers on the car. The third-generation Leaf is aimed at mainstream customers, not early adopters. It's based on Nissan's CMF EV platform, which gets rid of the torsion beam rear axle that was previously used and goes with an independent multi-link suspension instead. That increased lateral rigidity by 57%. The powertrain components, including the motor, gear reducer, and inverter, have been combined into one unit that's 10% more compact than before. The motor generates 160 kilowatts of power, or 214 horsepower, and 355 newton meters of torque, that's 261 pound-feet. The air conditioning unit was moved from behind the instrument panel into the engine compartment to provide more interior room. And the car now has a turning radius that's 10 centimeters smaller, or about 4 inches. Nissan has got a lot riding on the Leaf. It was one of the first mass-market EVs when it hit the road in late 2010. But Nissan squandered its lead, and it's clearly trying to make up for lost time with this new generation. And that brings us to the end of today's report. Thanks for watching, and a hearty shout out to all you Patreon and YouTube members who are supporting the work that we do.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. Intrepid Control Systems, over-the-air engineering boost your game. Teijin Automotive Technologies, the formula for better mobility. And by
Developing today's vehicles, issues can happen in an instant. What good is knowing your problems without the data to solve them? Meet Wireless Neovi Cloud, your secure off-the-shelf solution, empowering real-time collaboration for quick resolution. With Wireless Neovi Cloud, your team can prevent issues before they can escalate. Driver communication data and remote diagnostics to analyze and resolve your problems using OTA, allowing your executives oversight throughout the process. Wireless Neovi Cloud, your vehicle update solution in production and on the road. Intrepid Control Systems, driven by your data.
There's nothing wrong with heavy metal.
Hey, lighten up.
But with world-class composite material, Teijin Automotive Technologies makes vehicles lighter, safer, and more eco-friendly.